Hello again. At the conclusion of my last video, I mentioned that I might one of these days put another Dr. Ercole Del Rio study on. Well, this is sooner than I expected, but here it is for all of us to have a good look at. It's black to play, black playing this way, and to draw. Now, there's only one way that he can do it, but even once you find the key move, it's so easy to go wrong. Well, let's just show you what it isn't. First of all, you can check with a rook either by playing here or by playing here. It's as broad as it's long. It really doesn't make any difference. It will still end up where white wins. What white wouldn't do, though, is to take the rook like that, because as can be seen, that would leave black in stalemate. So the premise of solving this, of course, is black wants to secure either perpetual check or wangle a stalemate. But in the final analysis, he doesn't manage to do either of those, so there's a clue there. Well, let's just demonstrate why rook h3 or rook c6, it would just be the other way around, doesn't work. We try and get him in a perpetual, so just take a look at that. We keep going. What does white do there? Well, what he does here is that white must avoid playing king takes rook. If he plays king takes rook at any stage in this position, it's a stalemate, because if you look at the position of the rook, knight and pawn on white side, black has no king move. He must get white into a position where it's king takes rook. If white can play knight takes rook, then white will win because of his superior material and the fact that black would have a flight square on h7. So what does black do there in that position? Just take a good look at that. We see if he checks here, it's knight takes, so he has to check here. Now then, what is the problem with that? The problem is that king e3 wins out of hand because black has run out of checking moves where he can force the king to take. If he moves here or he moves there, it's knight takes, and then black has the flight square, and as can be seen, white wins. And it's a mirror image of that should you play rook c6 check. Check it out for yourselves. So that definitely doesn't work. There's only one other move that can be considered in this position to save the game. Firstly, I'll show you where you can so easily go wrong. You play there. Now, if he takes that rook, again, looking at that position, if there were nothing else on the board, that would be stalemate. And even with the white rook on the board, it is ostensibly still stalemate. So he cannot afford to touch this rook. What black is wanting to do is to perpetually drive the rook like this, and keep going. We can cut all of that out, because in the final analysis, he'd go to f7. He's hoping that black would play that. What is he wanting there? Well, if he were to play rook takes, like that, that would indeed be stalemate. But white instead would play knight takes. And if you look at that, he's giving up his rook in order to play that. And that g-pawn cannot be stopped. And that is where you can go wrong in this position. Let's just take it back for a moment. This is the starting position again. This is the key move, rook a3, so congrats to anyone who found it. This is the necessary rejoinder. And now, if we play here, that doesn't work, because again, knight here, king takes, king to h7, and it's a win again. So by process of elimination in this position, we are left with the inescapable conclusion that after rook a3, rook f7 forced, it has to be rook a6. Why should this make a difference? Well, he has to move his king. Interposing the knight or the rook would just lose material, and black could end up winning this game. So he has to play here. So what now? Well, the premise still stands. If white takes with the king, then it's a draw, it's a stalemate. If he takes with the knight, it's a win for white. Or is it? Now, all the material now is on the king side. We check him. What does he do there? What does he do? Well, if he plays like this, then we can go here, and if you look at that position, it would be a case of rook takes f7, knight takes f7, stalemate. So that wouldn't work. But if he goes here or here, say for instance, trying to force the issue, then unfortunately what you could do in that position, you wouldn't want to go here, because he'd take, and then you could take the pawn and it would be rook and knight against lone king, which would be a win. So that just wouldn't work. But what you do there is you play here. This is the winning move, rook h3. You're applying here a contradiction in terms. I've already said a few times that you must get him to play king takes rook and not knight takes rook. Well, if you look at that, unless he plays knight takes rook, black has a perpetual. There's no way that white can avoid it. You can just keep going with the rook. And then should that rook move away from f7, white can play king takes g7. Now, should he take here, what happens then? Well, what happens then is this. How does he save his g-pawn? He can't, can he? That g-pawn is lost, and a king and a knight is unable to win. It just is impossible. And like I was just saying, if he didn't take the rook, just imagine he tried to play something like this. Well, again, all that we need to do is to keep checking the king. And if he plays king takes rook, it's a stalemate. There's just no way of getting out of it. He can do whatever he wants. You can keep checking the king. He can come back, play here. And we can always run into this situation again where we exchange, he takes. And that is a very unusual stalemate position, but stalemate it is nonetheless. And that is a magnificent problem from really the better part of 300 years ago. It's fantastic. I hope you enjoyed it, and goodbye for now.